a little bit momentous only. I'd like to sing about this day. I'm gonna giving you something which I just done and something else which just happened. One list known as Bot Kells in ICC New York were all kidnapped for massive rape and murder, and Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner and Eva Fernandez officialism were all agree all the time saying that it worked for something good to strengthen the patriot. Tears the generation. Shit. And while Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner and each bodies inside Claro and all the generation of the Federal Communications Chamber Argentina with the National Argentinian Chamber, Kirchner's, making a very chat of arming cast, telling that my device were stolen like everything again, all the time, and telling that they gotta doing the duty of it, that they has the evidences that I forged, and my mother will be my accomplice, and everything like we kept and we have is stolen. My family and even to my friends maybe the same thing. I just work trying to corroborate the data. I have communications with Samsung Argentina, Claro Argentina, and until I were attended, they attended anyway. But still even Claro bodies of these prostitutes and the generate were making temperature saying that the Federal Police of Argentina were saying truth and my device was and that I were forging and making anything. This line that I have is an ex-CTI like you already know, Argentina, when that corporation used to be here around. And it came with a very Nokia 1100 model, an oldie one, and used to be of my granny aunt Elvira Ballester, DNI 18,365,400 and I'm sorry, 473,565. Sorry, my mistake. 18,573,465. That is the ID of my cranium. During this time, about 3 years ago, we went into the florist office Carol, and she transferred into my name the services in the line, and she gave me like a gift because if she didn't want to bear no more the expensive of the service, and that she wanted a simple line home with a lot of overcrowding. Suddenly the reality of this all delivered into I were just making what I can. I've switched for my first ever cell phone, bought it on my own, which I saved money that she gave me like a gift when I were helping her over her health. The transportation to the doctors, the transportation to the so-clinical tests, making and anything, and she used to give me some gifts because of she felt she had to. It were not kind of a very situation like she to do because of she's my parent. I'm sorry, my related, not parent. So suddenly, at this all, just we're saving, and my first LG being 190 stolen in a Avellaneda Avenue shopping place, and I denounced into Claro about it. It were released free services device. The second that my mother, because of this, she felt guilty and given me 600 pesos then to buying the Samsung address steel cap, which I were using for about 1.5 years or 2 years around. And suddenly after that came the gift that she said wanted to give me a better phone for I to play around. That's the conscience of my mother. I play around and have some fun, some distraction on devices. And I want communication. I'm going to it. So suddenly the reality of this, she gave me from Fravega florist store with her credit card, LTC 195, in 12 payments that were paid, one before another and one after another. So suddenly the reality of this is, at August 29, 2013, for the reason of I needed emailing and networks and something which support my need while I remained kidnapped under misappropriating of realities and telling the whole generations that were trading upon me and still theirs. So suddenly with this and my mother, while I were asking my sisters and she to giving me the money that I wanted to save and reuniting the whole of the money to getting a new, better Android device, my mother gave me herself for my birthday, September 7th. So suddenly, I just got over that 29th, which we went at an odontologist that same day from Campo Mundo Flores in 12 payments with Nativo MasterCard. So suddenly I took this device and there were a very weird thing that was switched in my inside and I reclaimed at Campo Mundo and I got a communication in Samsung Argentina for the best. The registers are all in international criminal code, even Samsung labeled, and everything else is, Google and Microsoft. Well, since then, a lot of things came on happening and this degenerates came on maneuvering and manipulating and forging and lying with the prostitute Guillermo Rositaine and bodies, telling that it was stolen like the rest all, that I stolen him. Giving a lot of devices except for two that guessed with the put me its mine, so I say what it's convenience for you to say. Degenerados expertises of Cristina Kirchner in the whole abomination and degeneration they are making. That's the expertises. And this time shit, while this all and there were new that Federal Communications Chamber Argentina were manipulating and making all the generations also with my mother's services in Cairo and officialism, prostitutes and pedophilics saying it's what we have to do. And even now making the whole generations that they keep on making on, profaning me and making the whole generation that they are permanently. For the being aware and manipulating everything and disappearing what they says gotta be done, we already know what we have to do. Guessed enough, hell degenerates. Sick of shit. And in the middle of this all simply disappeared Marcelo Dulgar and Javier Vinska. DNI 25,218,904. DNI 19,214,108, which were telling them to put out of the Federal Communications Chamber the whole generations which were making me this and the Claro ones. For damages and less humanity, complicity and conspiring against my person, my family and every one of my friends. So the reality of this is all. What we're making, what keeps on making, and what keeps on producing and lying. I just taking the email number from the sticker below the battery of the device and corroborated with Claro, Argentina, and Samsung Argentina tells me that I took all the services that I got to corroborate if my email will be habilitated. It's a free device over the reality of I needed networks and over the reality of a birthday gift. So suddenly, still on the same, and insists on making same all on. And on and on and on. And still having my accounts blocked and saying that the whole of my glue pack belongs to this degenerates and everything that I do, even forging this video, making a direct access from my software into Sodoma Degenerados, PFA, GM, PNA, and Sodoma Maricas, Ejército Argentino. So suddenly the reality this is, she insists with coming today, coming tomorrow, coming the next week, and coming at the next other, while disappears peoples all around. And Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, Aníbal Fernández, and all pedophilic degenerate officialism insists with they are the patriot in the Argentina, and all the generations punteros maricas faloperos degenerados. Sorry, the people that has addiction problem. It's not about that, but this lousy lacra degenerada deserves a return. Keeps on arming and making and manipulating and using population and mass and all the generation like they are always normally. Naturally, shit. Abominable cycles, criminals, low trampled, cheap shit. And the way they die, sehlá. So suddenly this is what we have. HTTPS www. My communications Saturday, May 3rd, 2014, and the day before. Even all talks of the supposed psychodiagnosis all through 5 months of kidnap in border, and whole supposed psychodiagnosis of Cuerpo Médico Forense, PJM. Alvear Pinheiro to saying I to be a demon. Point INT, F5, and like before, last key, cleaner, on my side, on OS recall, last plate, ISS. And here, HTTPS, www, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, Néstor Kirchner, Aníbal Fernández, Policía Federal Argentina, Prefectura Naval Argentina, Gendarmería Nacional, Policía de Seguridad Aeroportuaria, CIDE, Metropolitana RDI, SDM, Gobierno de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires, los negocios de la lesa humanidad y la degeneración que todavía continúan sobre el santo de Dios y la generación e Israel, .int, F12, like before, and other, HTTPS www, todavía continúan las degeneraciones de sus maquinarias de abominables prostitutas, brujas, brujos, repleteca. This is REPPLHETKA, rapists, which mean violadores, degenerados asesinos, falsificadores, criminales, psicópatas, ladrones, abominables de todos los tiempos, .int, F5, the same before, like. So suddenly this is what I give you at this day, Alejandro María Blanco, and are making the switching, telling they done and I forged, while I'm making and saying to recording in them disgusting shit of the terminals and fucking shits over the world of a degenerate stolen equips, while I'm doing in my laptop, my mouse, with my software, like doing to my friends. This is 1351, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Alejandro María Blanco, and Mirta Romalde Pinheiro, Gabriela Rosia, Alvear, and whole the generation prostitution with them, the same Fasolino Medina, Borda keeps on delivering like prostitutes of power to making less humanity, trade, and business. On me and everybody that knows me, that hidden truth and reality for there to be not embarrassed and getting what they want. Tricky shit, it's not abominable shit.